After Iron-Jawed Angels earned Emmy, Golden Globe, and SAG Award honors, Jenny Friedis is now able to watch and appreciate the movie that she helped bring to the screen. At the same time, Friedis has not rested on her writing reputation. Over the last decade, this talented woman has been crafting screenplays of varied natures, the most recent of which focuses on a story of historical importance and unimaginable greed and violence. And, as in Iron-Jawed Angels, Friedis tells the story through the eyes of the woman who experienced the torture, as a way of giving her a voice.
Were you able to ever watch Iron-Jawed Angels just as a movie?
There was one time, and it was maybe 5 years ago, where I hadn't seen it in a long time before that. And in fact, lines that I didn't get a long time ago, where I used to be critical of them, I understood all of a sudden. So I would say 15 years after all of it, I was able to watch it as just a movie.
And I
liked it better. I loved the last 30 minutes. I found it moving. I cried. Like, it got me.
Yeah. Because
it still gets played. They are still playing it. What is it now?
2004, 12 years later.
12 years later.
Yeah. When do you start thinking, okay, I've done this, I'm going to continue?
What next?
Yeah.
Right away. My next script after that was not historical fiction. I was definitely just going much more commercial. I was trying to be a little bit more hip, maybe more modern. That actually didn't work. It wasn't good. It was not. It was just soft. I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, what was it about Iron-Jawed Angels? Why am I proud of this? Why am I doing this? And I said, because it's a story that we were supposed to, that we should have known, that we didn't know. That's what I want to do. So what other stories are out there? So I started looking about, just women in history that we don't know about. And Ellen Craft was the main one that struck me. She was a light-skinned slave, and she disguised herself as a white man and traveled openly to escape slavery from Georgia to Philadelphia with her husband as her slave. So she traveled with him on boats, on trains, on buses, and she made it, and they were brought into the lecture circuit because the abolitionists up there who sort of caught them said, we have an amazing story here. They went on, they would speak, they ended up in Boston, and Filmer signed the Fugitive Slave Act, which said that escaped slaves could be brought back at any time, from anywhere. They sent federal marshals out after them. They escaped again to England, ended up raising 5 kids there, and then after the war, they came back here and opened a school for former slaves in Georgia. Why do we know about them? This is amazing. This is an incredible story. I wrote a script on that. It hasn't gotten any traction, so either it's the way I wrote it, or it's not the right time. As it was told to me that there's no casting for that particular part. So part of me wants to put it aside, put it away, but part of me thinks I still want the story told. Finding the right folks, finding the people who are like, okay, I have to tell that story. And then there's another story about the Osage. I wrote this one a little more recently with a friend of mine named Elise Passion. She's a wonderful writer. She's a poet, and she's also Osage. The Osage, they're a Native American tribe that was in the Fairfax, Oklahoma area. And there were 220 of them back in the 1920s, and they were given something called head rights because oil was found under their land. And so they all would have a share of that oil. A head right was the share of that oil. And what did happen is that people came into the county and would kill them off, like marry them, kill their spouse, and then inherit the head rights. There were over 100 unexplained deaths in about a 6-year period that they often chalked up to whiskey deaths, violent deaths, just tons of murder going on. The FBI came out. They were called the BOI at the time. They weren't even the FBI. It was right before J. Edgar Hoover. But they actually used undercover techniques to discover this one family, actually, who there was an Osage woman, and she had like 3 sisters, and the sisters and the mom were killed. So she inherited all of their head rights, and then they were trying to kill her. And they had married her. We tell the story from her point of view. Mm-hmm. Which is really probably the mistake commercially. It probably needs to be told from the FBI agents who come in point of view. as a sort of fish out of water story as they're trying to investigate and track down what's going on.
I don't know. I think as a woman, I would want to hear her point of view.
And as a woman, I wanted to write her point of view.
Yeah.
I tried to write it sort of from their point of view, and I didn't hear their voices. I couldn't latch on to 1920s
Law enforcement
FBI.
kind of guy.
Yeah, and without being stereotypical. Like, I didn't feel him as a person. I felt him as a caricature, and I couldn't... It just didn't come off genuine to me. But she did. I mean, the Osage were the wealthiest people in this country because of the oil, and they were being slaughtered. So think about it, if the wealthy, if a pocket of the wealthiest people in this world were being, killed and nobody cared. They didn't have a voice. I'd like to give them a voice. I want this story to be told. Now, my understanding is that somebody else pitched this, actually won a pitch competition. And so it might be floating around Hollywood. And that kind of killed me when I heard that, because I'd already written the script. I'm eating my heart out a little bit about it, but then part of me is like, okay, but isn't your goal the story to be told? And if the story gets told, the story gets told. So, I mean, I'd like to be a part of it. I've read all of the FBI files. I still think about writing it into a novel because I actually think that...
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you ever think about writing the book first?
It's been written. I mean, there have been books about this.
But written by her, about her?
No, not about her specifically. Although she's been in them. I mean, hers was the only case that actually went to trial. My understanding is they spent like $3 million and charged it to the Osage and patted themselves on the back and got one conviction out of all the murders that were out there, basically. It's not a feather in the cap of the FBI, exactly.
Yeah.
There was a guardianship program, too. It was like, well, they're not used to having lots and lots of money, so we need to come in and help them out.
Yeah.
And we're going to put them under guardianship. And so the lawyers would come in and just rob them blind. And again, it's a compelling story, and I think it should be told.